Hello Internet, and welcome back to the 30-day video game music challenge, hard mode, no repeat games, where I, Demagen, am attempting to go through 30 days worth of very specific video game music related challenges. We're up to day 23, which is me talking about music that is underrated. Now, there's semantics involved in this. Is it music that is critically underrated by the majority of the community? Is it music that I feel is probably underrated? Is it music for games that I feel are probably or definitely underrated? In all honesty, I'm not entirely sure which kind of nuance I'm going to go with, or which kind of nuance that I should go with this. And because of that, it was really quite difficult to actually choose games or choose any kind of music. So I've got 4, and I'm not going to play music from each of them, but I am going to quickly go through the list from bottom to top in terms of I think I've gone for games that are underrated. Realistically, music from games that are underrated. I don't think that's actually what the challenge is getting at. So I feel like I might have failed the challenge for this one. I'm going to start off at the bottom with Mark Canham's The Secret World OST. There's a lot of really cool tracks on this. A lot of kind of mystery, a lot of kind of low-key, low-tempo, subtle dread tracks, but equally some quite bombastic, punchy battle themes. Now, The Secret World was a game about mystery. It was a more story-focused game where the main threat was almost existential. It was almost Lovecraftian in its nature. A threat that realistically you could never truly conquer. And the music did a really good job, I think, of building up to that. And in my opinion, the original Secret World game, before they rebranded it and changed things around, I think The Secret World was a fairly underrated game with a fairly underrated soundtrack. So that's made it onto the list. Petrielenko's soundtrack to Quantum Break. One of the first games I played for the channel, though, admittedly, I think I actually streamed it and then put it on the channel. Quantum Break by Remedy, the same guys that made Alan Wake, the same guys that made Control. His soundtrack to the game, bearing in mind that Alenko has done a lot of good soundtracks for a lot of games and I believe film now. It was a soundtrack that really helped tie together the game in a way that I really appreciated, and I don't feel like many people did. Let's actually put a little bit of this on while I'm talking about it. I really liked Quantum Break as a game. I don't think it did particularly well. The sequel that I think they wanted to do but didn't do, they clearly set it up for a sequel. You know, everything that happened to Beth in that game. But yeah, I like this piece of music, and I like the soundtrack as a whole. It does make me feel sad that the story was never resolved. But I like what they were doing, and yeah, I feel like it was probably a bit of an underrated game and an underrated soundtrack. And actually, I now want to listen to this entire soundtrack again, just because I played this little bit of a snippet of it. That's the power of good music, folks. Second of the four, going up 4, 3, 2 on this list is the Final Fantasy 12 soundtrack. Final Fantasy 12 for a lot of people is a terrible game. I personally feel it is massively underrated and underrepresented as part of the series. Yes, it might very well just be Star Wars in a Final Fantasy setting. It is, a lot of the basic premise is it's just Star Wars, but with crystals. And, yeah, okay, fair dues. It probably is that, but it's got some really, really great pieces of music in my opinion. There's just some really, really good tracks in the Final Fantasy 12 soundtrack. So much good stuff, realistically. That's not my number one. That's not my number one. My number one is for a game that fans of the franchise from which it's taken don't really like it. And it's this. This is Belmont's theme from Castlevania Lords of Shadow. The 3D remake, if you like, or reinvention of the Castlevania franchise that spawned a sequel, Castlevania 2. Or Lords of Shadow 2, rather. Where Dracula is the good guy. Where Belmont turns into, spoilers, Dracula at the end. He becomes the bad guy. It was, in my opinion, a really cool shift. Is it what people expected? Hell no. No, people were expecting a Belmont versus Dracula in a very classic Castlevania tale, and they didn't get it. But I will stand up for Lords of Shadow and Lords of Shadow 2. I will defend both of those games because I think they were really, really good. Assuming, I regard them as separate from the main Castlevania quote-unquote canon narrative, which, as far as I'm concerned, is really, really easy to do. As kind of an alt-universe spin on Castlevania, I think it's really cool. It's really nicely done. The first game, in my opinion, is better narratively than the second. I kind of feel like in many ways the second has got some slightly better music than the first, but I think overall the soundtrack for the first game is better. I don't think overall the first game is better as well. But yeah, Belmont's theme, it's not Vampire Killer, it's not Bloody Tears, it's not the classic. It's not the classic Castlevania tunes, but it's dramatic and it's got that kind of epicness that they were going for. And I think Lords of Shadow's soundtrack and the game itself is very, very underrated. But what about you? What do you think? What video game music is underrated, or what game is underrated that you think's got music? As I said, Day 23 was a bit of a semantic minefield for exactly what it was wanting us to talk about. So I don't really feel like I've met the challenge with that one, but it is what it is. Underrated music. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll catch you all for Day 24, the end of row 4 on this graphic. Music I constantly have stuck in my head. I've fudged this one, and I'll explain how and why in tomorrow's video. Until then, folks, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe out there. I'll catch you all tomorrow. Cheerio. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, why not click the like button and consider subscribing. Remember, you can ring the bell notification icon to get notified when new videos go live. And until next time, Cheerio.